Today we're going to be looking at the Sternguard Veteran Squad. Hello and welcome back to Planet 40k. Continuing on with our Space Marine reviews. This time we're jumping back into the elite section of the Codex. We're looking at the Sternguard Veterans. We're going to discuss the datasheet, go through some synergy and do our Planet 40k review. Before we do, however, we've got to do our shout out of the day, which is going to go to Adam Pogachnik to his comment relating to the Whirlwind tank, making mention of the Suppressor Fire stratagem. So shout out to you, Adam. So the Sternguard Veterans have a power level of 6, they're 20 points per model, and as mentioned, they're from the elite section of the book. For the keywords of note, they've got the core keyword, they're an infantry model. Now they're not a Primaris unit, they are Firstborn, so that's going to be quite a key factor, especially when it comes to stratagems and transports and whatnot, which we'll go over later in the video. So let's get on with the data sheet then. There's a movement of 6 inches, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, toughness 4, wounds 2, attacks 2, leadership 8, and a 3+ save. It's a very standard Space Marine infantry model stats there. You can get up to 10 of these in a max unit, but you only need 5 if you want to go with the min unit. The Veteran Sergeant is going to have 1 additional attack along with an extra bit of leadership, giving the unit a leadership value of a 9. As for the abilities, Angels of Death, the combat doctrines, the Bolt of Discipline, and also Know No Fear, all those things are going to come into play. Shock Assault 2, I guess, if you want to kit them out for melee, again we'll go over that in the weapons section. You can also use Combat Squad, so you can take a max unit of 10 of them, split them up into 2 units of 5, and you can determine this at the start of the deployment once you've seen your opponent's list. Now just bear in mind you're only going to have 1 sergeant for the 2 units, so one of them will have a leadership value of a 9 and the other one will be a leadership value of an 8. As for war gear, they're all kitted out with a bolt pistol, a special issue bolt gun, and then the frag and crack grenade. So as always, I'm going to throw out the bolt pistol, the frag and crack grenade on the screen for you now. I'm not going to go over those, they're very basic weapons. The special issue bolt gun though is 30-inch range, rapid fire 1, strength 4, minus 2 AP and 1 damage. So in turns 2 and optionally turn 3, which is the tactical doctrine, this will go to a minus 3 AP weapon, which is pretty good. Now due to the fact that they are an infantry model, if they stood stationary then they're going to get the full rapid fire at 30-inch range. If they do however move, then they're going to be shooting double shots at 15 inches as opposed to 30. So not a bad range, but the AP is really decent here, minus 2 AP without even buffing it. So there's plenty of war gear options here guys. I'm not going to go through every single one, I'm just going to briefly touch upon these bullet points because there's just tons. You can virtually kit them out in any way you want. So let's start with the first one then. So we've got any number of models can have their special issue bolt gun replaced with 1 weapon from the combi weapons list. So I put down the 5 weapons in the combi weapons list. I didn't actually know the Storm Bolter was a part of the combi weapons list. You learn something new every day. They're all 5 points except for that Storm Bolter, which is only 3 points. But the fact that it says any number of models can have this, it means you could take a min unit of 5 and have say 5 combi melters in that unit or 5 combi flamers. So it has some sort of similar feel to a Devastator unit. Now if you wanted to upgrade the Veteran Sergeant, you can change his bolt pistol or his special issue bolt gun, and you can give him either one of the pistols. Again, we're going to just quickly show the actual options here. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. They're all 5 points. Now the Hand Flamer and the Inferno pistol are only available to the Blood Angels. Then all the actual melee weapons there are also listed. I've actually put the stats on those ones along with the points upgrades in red. So you can virtually kit out the Veteran Sergeant in any way, shape or form. Then the final bullet point here. Up to 2 Sternguard veterans can each have the special issue bolt gun replaced with one of the following. So they can either take 1 heavy flamer or 1 weapon from the heavy weapons list. Now the heavy flamer is actually in the heavy weapons list, but again you've got to be using the Blood Angel chapter. You've also got the option of using the special weapons, so the flamer, the grab gun, the melt gun and the plasma gun. So up to 2 models can take those, but you also could just use the combi weapons as mentioned in the very first bullet points. So tons and tons of options for you to choose from. Really feels like a unit that can just kit bash with random weapons from your bits box. Tactically there's just so many ways to utilise them, whether it's a melee unit, whether it's a combi weapon unit with melters or flamers. Maybe they're a stayback unit holding objectives with a couple of las cannons for example. They're really there to suit your playstyle and your chapter. Having a look at some stratagems that are available to the unit, you've got uncompromising fire for 2 command points. In the shooting phase, an infantry unit can perform an action while still shooting, pretty good. And steady advance, they're going to be considered to have remained stationary even though they've actually moved. And that's 2 command points. Now that's good for a couple of reasons. Firstly, if you've got heavy weapons, you've got no -1 to hit penalty. But secondly, with your bolter weapons, if you do remain stationary, you can use bolter discipline to get double shots at 30-inch range as opposed to 15. You've then got the All-Spec Scan, which is more of a scare stratagem really. just prevents units from coming in within 12 inches of this unit, because if they do so, you're going to throw down 2 command points and get to fire at that unit. So a little bit of protection from deep striking units that are coming in to your backlines trying to take out your Sternguard. As for some Codex synergy, now the unit is not available to the Dark Angels chapter, or the Death Watch, or Space Wolves, so I picked out 3 chapters that will work really well with this unit. The first one being the Ultramarines. To pick out a few bits of synergy here, you've got the Signs of Guilliman in the Tactical Doctrine, so turn 2, optionally turn 3 as well. In the movement phase, if you didn't advance or fall back, you can make your shooting attacks as if you remain stationary. We've already pointed out why that could be really key for your bolter discipline or for your heavy weapons to not incur a penalty. You've then got a stratagem which is the Sons of Guilliman for 1 command point, which effectively allows you to reroll ones to hit. So if you're going in with a unit of combi multers, you really don't want to be missing those shots because they're probably going to die at short range once it's your opponent's turn, so making sure you're getting all your hit rolls in could be really key there. Then of course Codex Discipline, which just allows them to fall back and still shoot at a -1 to hit penalty. If you're already carrying heavy weapons, that -1 won't stack with the actual movement of the heavy weapon, it will still stay at a -1 because it's been capped. But always nice to fall back out of combat and still fire. Salamanders are the second option that I've gone with here today. With the Forged in Battle chapter tactic, you can reroll one of the wound rolls, so particularly good if you're taking those heavy weapons, all those special weapons, you don't want to be missing those wound rolls. Then the Promethean Cult, which is their super doctrine in the Tactical Doctrine, which is turn 2 or option turn 3. You get to +1 to the wound rolls if you're using flamer weapons or melter weapons, which both are available to this unit. They've got a few stratagems here. The first is the Fires of Battle for 1 command point, done in the shooting phase or in Overwatch. When you're using a flame weapon or a melter weapon, on an unmodified wound roll of a 4+, the target suffers a mortal wound, in addition to the normal damage to a maximum of 3. Really like that one. Easy way to just throw out some extra mortal wounds there. Then they've got the Crucible of Battle for 1 command point, which we're going to +1 to the wound rolls. Now we have this as standard in the Tactical Doctrine for flamers and melters. This one's going to work in any turn and it isn't just restricted to the flamers and melter weapons. It could also be done on a grab weapon, for example. Then they've got the Relentless Determination stratagem for 1 command point, and very similar to the Ultramarines, you're effectively going to be considered to have remained stationary for that movement phase even though you've actually moved, although you can't advance or fall back. So again, your heavy weapons aren't going to incur that -1 to hit penalty, and your bolter weapons could be doing double shots with bolter discipline. The final piece of synergy with Salamanders is taking Volkan Heston with his Forged Father ability. Done in the command phase, you select a core unit within 6 inches, and any attacks made with the flamer weapons or melter weapons from the unit, they get to reroll all the hit rolls and all the room rolls. So pretty devastating there. Just a little note to point out here, we did actually mention this in the drop pod review we did recently. Because this is done in the command phase, if you're taking this unit as well as this character in a drop pod, you're missing out the command phase there because you're coming in the reinforcement step of the movement phase, so you won't be able to get it done in that turn, but for the rest of the game this ability is available. The last chapter of note is the Imperial Fists. So they've got the Siege Masters chapter tactic, so you're removing light cover from enemy units, and also any bolt weapons get extra hits on unmodified hit rolls of a 6. They've got the Legacy of Dawn super doctrine, which is turn 1 in the Devastator doctrine. If you're shooting heavy weapons against vehicles and your strength is 7 or more, you can add 1 to the damage characteristics. Particularly good on las cannons, for example, but you can only take 2 of them per unit as a maximum. Like the Salamanders, they've also got a few stratagems up their sleeve, so they've got Bolter Drill for 2 command points, used on a core unit. When you're shooting till the end of the phase, any unmodified hit rolls of a 6 will score an additional hit. So that's the exact same as your actual chapter tactic, so that's going to stack very nicely. Then their final one, which is Close Range Bolter Fire for 2 command points, done in the shooting phase on a core unit. All bolt weapons could be considered to have pistol type weapons instead of what they've normally got, which is the rapid fire weapons. So that basically means if they've been caught in combat, they can fire their special issue bolt guns into combat. And of course they're going to be within rapid fire range. They're going to be less than an inch away from the enemy unit. You've also got some character buffs such as the Librarian with the Psychic Fortress, giving a 5+ invulnerable save to the unit. Captains and Lieutenants are of course going to give those rerolls to the hit rolls and the wound rolls when you're rolling a 1, depending on which character you're taking there. Then you've got the Chaplains with their litanies, and there's 2 in particular here that I quite like, especially if you're going with a range unit. The Catacombs of Fire, +1 to the wound roll, or the Recitation of Focus to +1 to the hit roll. Now of course if you are going melee with all the melee options, you do have litanies that relate to the melee weapons as well. You can take an Apothecary and be using the Combat Restoratives, so you can be healing D3 lost wounds at the start of each turn. Now the Sternguard are only 2 wounds each. If there's 1 on 1 wound, you can be healing them up each turn. He's also got the Narthesium Aura to give them a 6+ feel no pain save. And of course he's got the Combat Revival Stratagem for 1 command point to bring a model back each and every turn. Then the final two little bits of synergy here. So the actual transports, you've got the Rhino and you've got the drop pod. Now these are Firstborn transports, and as this Sternguard veteran unit are Firstborn, they can go inside these. Now I'd probably favour the drop pod in this situation, because if you are going close, whether it's in melee or whether you want to take your combi melters for example, you can be doing this in turn 1 with the drop pod. Yes, it is immobile once you've dropped your payload, but it gets you in very early, and especially if you've got first turn, you could be deleting a unit before it's even had its chance to move. But a Rhino is also there as a solid option. So let's get on with the summary with the Sternguard veteran. Starting with the good, they can be tailored to virtually any type of unit you want, whether it's combat, whether it's at range, it could be at close range, it could be mid range, far range, whatever you want, they can pretty much do it. And also, going away from the actual rules, it makes good use of your spare bits that you've got laying around in your bits box. Whenever you buy a box set or a kit, you always get these extra weapons, little combi melters here and there, flamers. So this is your chance to throw them onto a model. Maybe you just need to purchase some legs or something. Or they're also very easy to proxy if you've got random Firstborn models laying around. They've got access to the Firstborn transports, as we've just mentioned. There's not actually that many Firstborn units that can go into transports anymore, because everything's either got the Primaris keyword, or they're a Terminator or a Centurion. So it's something that ties in with those transports. They're a solid Alpha Strike Melter unit in particular. I mean, you could opt for the Flamers. If you're going to go in hard and heavy, you may as well do it properly and take the combi melters, get the maximum damage output going straight away, especially with a drop pod. Then you've actually got access to Flamers, as I've just mentioned. Now, Devastator units, which are quite comparable to this unit, they can't unless you're playing Blood Angels or Deathwatch. This is actually a way of getting an all-flamer unit in with your Firstborn models. So on to the bad. They're not troops, so there's no objective secured, of course. They can't be used for Space Wolves, Dark Angels or Deathwatch. And I don't think those chapters are going to mind too much. They've got their more unique melee options within their codex. Dark Angels, I think they're pretty happy as it is right now with their new supplement. But as for the actual unit itself, I just think there's better alternatives for each role. For example, you can just take Intercessors or Tactical Marines, so you're going to get the objective secured if you're going to sit on objectives. Or even if you wanted to make use of your bolters, you've got the option of heavy intercessors, which are much tougher with an extra wound. Or as mentioned, they could be comparable to devastators as well. Now if you are going melee, there's plenty of melee options that are just better than these guys. I mean, Vanguard Veterans for a start. They've got the option of the Invan save and the jump packs, or you can take Terminators for example. This unit is a jack of all trades unit. I think it's the master of none. They're also not Primaris, so you've got to knock them down a peg for that as well. So there's no transhuman physiology stratagem available to them, whereas all your Primaris models got that option, so you can't wound them on less than a 4+. And then as they're elites, you'd expect a bit of a punch from them while still being quite tough, quite resilient. Yes, you can get that punch, but I think they would go down quite quickly with a standard 3+ armor save. And when you're considering elite models, I think they could be a little bit better than this. So as for the rating today, I'm going to be giving the Sternguard Veterans a Planet 40k rating of 3 stars. Quite average for me. I know they could be quite good if you're kitting them out correctly, especially when you're putting them in your certain chapters and whatnot. I just think you've got better options within the codex and your supplements. So do you guys agree with the rating? Let me know below. Also remember to get your comments down below for a chance of a random shout out in the next Space Marine video. So guys, that's it from me today. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.